They treated her as if she were crazy, with the older woman's requests forcing him to travel far from the station, all for what seemed like idle chatter. They laughed, cracked smiles, and exchanged glances, mocking the distressed woman. The officer noticed something unusual, prompting him to inquire about the identity of her son. It turned out to be one of the officer's most significant errors of judgment while the woman spoke those words. Samantha Morrison has been alone for the past few years with no visitors. She thought about moving but found the idea daunting. She wanted to leave her old house because it reminded her of her husband and son, who had passed away. She felt a deep sense of loss in every part of the house. 10 years ago, Samantha lost her husband, which was very hard for her. She tried to stay positive despite her great loss. She was devastated when her son Charlie also went missing. Samantha felt like her life had lost its meaning and struggled with depression. Even after many years, she still felt stuck and unsure if she could move on from losing the two people she loved most. To add to her troubles, a very annoying neighbor moved in nearby. Samantha didn't mind at first, but soon the neighbor's house became a noisy, chaotic party place. Their guests even left trash like beer cans and cigarette butts at her entrance. Samantha hoped the situation would improve, but it didn't. One night, Samantha couldn't sleep for the entire night due to a loud party hosted by their neighbor. To continue to go forward into the morning, what the hell was happening? Samantha decided to visit her neighbor and requested that she lower the sound levels. She had no idea that things wouldn't turn out as she had hoped. After getting ready for the discussion, Samantha stepped outside. Hoping that the new neighbor would understand her situation, she waited while knocking at the door. A short while later, the woman opened the door, clearly exhausted from a long night of partying. She asked the old woman impolitely what she needed. Samantha tackled the problem in this manner. "Excuse me, I see you've been having a party. That's all right with me. But could you please turn the music down a little bit? I could barely sleep the whole night, and if you could remove the garbage from the yard and the street too, that would be great." "Why would I do that? This is my house. I could do anything I want as long as I'm within my limits," the girl responded, her speech slurred. Samantha was disappointed with the reply. What was she to do? "Well, in that case, I might have to call the police," she eventually responded. "Good, go ahead and do that," the girl said nonchalantly and shut the door. After giving it some thought, Samantha realized that there was only one course of action. When she got home, she grabbed the phone and called the local police station. When she informed them of the problem, they'd assured her that some officers were en route. She had no idea that her troubles had just begun. It didn't take Samantha long to hear from the police. The neighbor immediately turned down the music. The elderly woman was then shocked to hear the police banging on the door instead of her neighbors. She pushed open the door, assuming that they might only want to inquire about the specifics and check on her well-being. But the cops had no intention of doing that. There was information Samantha was unaware of. Samantha's neighbor was the daughter of some important person, some big shot in the city's government, specifically someone with close ties to the mayor. This, in a way, made her untouchable. The officers didn't have any intentions of getting into trouble messing with the daughter of one of the most powerful men in the city. But that wasn't all. They also tried to persuade Samantha not to ever bring them that issue again, so they decided to play along and pretend that she wasn't an issue. "Ma'am, you complain about your neighbors playing loud music. We can't hear anything. I feel you're making up stuff. I'm gonna have to ask you not to bother us again with this nonsense, or we'll have to file a report against you for slander," the officer said with a sly grin as the elderly woman listened speechless. She felt tears rolling down her cheek. How could this be happening? But suddenly, one of the officers noticed something hanging on Samantha's living room wall. There was a photograph of her son Charlie wearing his uniform from the Marines. The picture was taken just a few months before he passed away in service while he was stationed in Iraq. One of the officers saw it, and he instantly turned pale. "Excuse me, ma'am, is that your son? Was his name Charlie Morrison?" Samantha confirmed that he was right. Then, the officer broke down crying. As it turned out, the officer had also served in Iraq and had met Samantha's son during one mission. As a matter of fact, he had saved his life on one occasion. He never heard from him again after that incident, but he could never forget it. To this day, he was still tormented by the fact that he never had the chance to pay Charlie back for what he had done for him. Thinking that he had been this close to mistreating his mother just to protect the image of some politician's daughter. He felt sick to his stomach, so Officer Frank Valesky explained everything to Samantha, from his story with Charlie to the reason why they were initially reluctant to intervene against a rude neighbor. But now, there is no doubt that honoring the Marine who had saved his life back in the day was way more important than the reputation of some politician's daughter. He assured that they would file a report against the girl, even if that meant putting their jobs on the line. Samantha poured coffee for the officers and explained that she had been strongly against Charlie becoming a Marine, but he had enlisted against her wishes. "I cried for 3 days trying to convince him not to join, but I lost that fight," she told him tearfully. All the feelings she had been bottling up for years came out as she continued to tell them his story. Charlie and his mother had always been close. In fact, they had never spent weeks apart until he joined the Marines. He graduated high school in 2011 and was based in the Hawaii Marine Corps. The last time Samantha had spoken to her son on the phone, he had sounded upbeat, perhaps because he had almost completed his tour or because he had a fiancée waiting for him back home. Charlie was set to head to Japan in a month, return to Hawaii, and then come back home for a few weeks. He was so ecstatic. His dream was to become a Marine, and there was nothing I could do about that. "I'm proud of him that he died doing what he loved, protecting his country," Samantha said. The tragedy hit in 2013 when Charlie was in Iraq, just a year after Samantha's husband died. She was already struggling to cope after her husband's death, feeling like she was just going through the motions of life. One night, her mother woke her up, crying after seeing a news report about an accident in Baghdad. Samantha had a sick feeling that something had happened to Charlie, who was only 20 years old and had barely started his life. Samantha and her mom sat in front of the TV, waiting for the names of the victims to be announced. The helicopter carrying the Marines had crashed during a sandstorm, and none had survived. Samantha was numb when the doorbell rang, bringing the devastating news about her son. "For 5 years, I was a mess," Samantha said. "I didn't know how to go on without my son." All she had left of him were his personal belongings until they were stolen from her too. Charlie's belongings arrived at Samantha's house in a box with his uniform. Inside were his Purple Heart medal, a memorial flag, a memorial rifle, a Marine Corps medal, and his ribbons. Samantha proudly displayed Charlie's medals on her mantelpiece, but seeing them made her cry. Then they were stolen. A few months before Christmas, someone broke into Samantha's home and took Charlie's medals. They may have wanted gifts, but Samantha felt Christmas had lost its meaning without her loved ones. Samantha reported the theft, but the police didn't seem interested. This, along with other reasons, made her want to move out of the house. Officer Valesky was outraged. He believed Samantha didn't understand the sentimental value of the stolen items. Knowing Samantha's story, he was determined to help her get back Charlie's medals. He remembered that night from many years ago as if it had just happened. He joined the Marines right after finishing high school, just like Charlie. It was his first year in Iraq. Officer Valesky had suffered 2 concussions, lost 2 friends, and his marriage had ended. He had married his high school sweetheart before leaving, but she left him for someone else. This made him feel very bad, and he was tired of his life. He wrote letters to his family explaining why he felt ending his life was the only solution. That's when Charlie stepped in. One night, Officer Valesky decided he had had enough. He went to the 4th floor bathroom in the barracks and climbed up the air duct. He planned to jump from that height. Charlie heard the noise outside and realized something was wrong. He saw that the air duct was slippery from rain. Charlie ran up the stairs and, with 2 other Marines holding his legs, kicked the locked bathroom door open. He hung upside down out of the window and talked Officer Valesky out of jumping. Charlie received the Marine Corps medal for staying calm and helping Officer Valesky. His quick thinking gave the fire department time to rescue Officer Valesky. If it wasn't for Charlie, Officer Valesky might not be alive today.